Hello, everybody. We announced it at the end of yesterday's special. We have the interview. John Kaiser, manager of the Dungeon, is here to talk
I thought
about
you were going
his
to say
faction.
manager of the decade, but maybe later you can
We
try
can
try
restart
that.
if you'd like. We
No, just
can.
keep it going. You can keep it
Okay.
going.
All right. Well, we'll keep it going then. Manager of the decade, John Kaiser, is here, entering, I believe, your third season on the Schmoedown. That's correct, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Yep, third season with the Dungeon, still going strong. And I have to say, I'm excited to have this interview. You probably have the most hyped faction going into this. And let's start with where the hype began. Robert Parker, Ben Bateman, Dan Merle, the core of your faction. I mean, aside from the obvious management skills you have, how do you pull that one off?
Well, we were pretty sure we were going to get Parker to come back and take another crack with us. I don't think he gave up on the Dungeon, and the Dungeon didn't give up on him, certainly when his last season didn't go the way we expected it to. So, to me, priority number one was getting Parker back and giving him a chance to make another run, When you talk about the other guys, you're talking about two of the best ever play the game. Excuse me. When you're talking about guys like Ben Bateman and Dan Merle, I think the first thing that comes to anyone's mind is, are you good enough to manage them? Because let's face it, I don't think you could just put those guys with any manager and they're going to find success. Last season, they didn't have their best seasons. They were under different management. And I think they were smart to look elsewhere. I reached out to Bateman pretty early. He reached back out to me. It was very clear to me that he was talking to multiple managers. There was no shell game there. I know he was looking for the right offer. And I think both Dan and Ben were both looking for A-list partners going into this season because they didn't know where they were going to play. And I think it was a big priority for them to play with another A player who they felt like they could go on a run with in a singles tournament or just be in the conversation for matches. I had heard that Dan Merle hadn't signed yet. I'd heard he was maybe going to sign here, maybe going to sign there. I thought I'd give him a call. And I had a talk with him, and I said, listen, man, I can promise you something. You will never be slighted in this dungeon. You will be when you go out there and you compete for this dungeon, everyone's getting in line behind you. No one's throwing you out. No one's saying this, saying that. So you're with someone who's got your back. Now I know you're hell bent on two things. You want revenge against that faction that mistreated you, and you want your belt back. Well, you're joining the hungriest manager in the league. You finish in last place. That does something to a guy. Yeah. It changes how you approach the game. And I kind of let it go at that. And then, at some point, Bateman and Merle started talking to each other. And I think they were finding out that, maybe we don't get along and maybe we don't hang out a lot and maybe we aren't the two best buddies in the world, but we certainly both want to win. And we certainly both want to do it with someone in a faction we got confidence in doing. And then they had some conversations. I wasn't there, so I'm not going to fill in the blanks except for this last part. They both joined the dungeon, and here they are. So, and, naturally, I'm sure you're going to lead into the draft. And, I thought that we started out with a good group of people where, I had to get the draft right. But you know what? I got a killer in IG who I believe in, who I drafted as my first pick last year, who I want to continue to develop. I get to say at the end of my career, I managed the greatest of all time, in Dan Merle, and I got to play with a friend of mine and say what you want about him. We all know he's an enabler. We all know he'll stir up the hornet's nest, and he'll say what he wants to say, and he's gonna, he's got a silver tongue, and you just got to deal with it. But that's my pal, and I'm glad I'm going to be able to say I played with. I got to manage him at least one season last year.
Absolutely, yeah. And you're right. This is on the heels of specials about the draft. Let's get into that draft. Obviously, there was a lot of wonder around who the first pick of the draft could be. Many people thought possibly, some of the Star Wars players because they think the Star Wars League will take an up in importance this year. If your Twitter announcement's true, you did get a Star Wars player, but you went for Mara Kanopik with that Inner Geekdom title shot. What's the thought behind that?
Well, I think anyone who knows me knows that that inner geekdom, the inner geekdom division is something I hold sacred. That's something that the dungeon takes pride in. I mean, we owned it for a good period of time, and we thought we invested in the future of it with Robert Parker. We want the belt back in the dungeon. There's only one faction that should be ruling the inner geekdom, and that's us. When you look at someone like Mara Knopik, the amazing Mara Knopik, the brown dwarf star that she is, and she is a star. She's beaten Kalinowski. She's beaten Cushing. She's beaten some of the best this league's had to offer. Now, I know it's a different game, but I think Mara needed a manager like me to give herself that best shot at going up against Chandler. Now, do I think someone like a Roxy Stryer could get her ready for that match? Sure. Do I think a guy like Winston, if he was on the other side, could get her ready for that match? Sure. But I think there's only one manager that can get her that win, and that's me. And, you know, I love that this season I get to play with some OGs of the league, if you will, and Mara is certainly one of them. Whitney Seibold is another one. Like it's exciting to me to have these new people who I've been a fan of their work and their game, and now I get to ride with them. You know.
Yeah, absolutely.
And let's not forget, Mara announced that she's going to play in Star Wars, so we answered the Star Wars question too.
Yeah, absolutely. And so following that, kind of sticking with Mara, whether or not this was intentional, I don't know, but you also drafted Molly Damon, which means that first event of the year, the first opportunity to get points, you're in both matches. Which if you can win both of them with Molly and then Mara taking the belt, that gives you a brilliant head start ahead of the other factions. Was
that dangerous Dan's got Snyder too, so there's an opportunity for points.
He absolutely does. Was that on purpose, or is that just more happy accident?
It's never a happy accident. Those are things you weigh and you say, I would love to be in line to compete in one of these matches. Now, in my wildest dreams, did I think I'd be starting out the season with 3 booked matches? No, maybe 2. But to me, that's a clean sweep. You know, Star Wars is getting more and more important to this game. It's becoming a place to collect a lot of points. It's becoming a fan favorite. If it's not, I mean, obviously it was a fan favorite because of last year's tournament, even more so. There was talk of 2 tournaments. So now you got to start to think about, okay, let's wrangle a few Star Wars players. Now, look at Andrew de Milana was high on my list. You know, like I really wanted to bring him over to the dungeon because he's got a killer attitude. He takes the game serious. He's fun to watch play. I knew that he was going to be out of my grasp. You know what I mean? This young buck, Thomas Harper, spoke on the phone with him. Great kid. I think he could do great things in this league. He's got a lot to prove. There's some pressure on him. He's a first-round draft pick. But you want to talk about a classy kid who's smart, who is fully embracing this game for what it is. I don't think you find a classier rookie than him. He's with Kate now. We'll see what he'll do over there. But I had my eyes on him, and then once I saw him start climbing the draft boards, I knew I wasn't going to have a shot at him. And then it just became kind of like, well, we got to look at the field and grab the best player. Now, if you'd have told me Molly Damon would have been there when I drew, I would have never in a million years, because that's a best case scenario for me. Yeah. You want someone who's battle tested, who not only lives with the current champion of the world, and you know she's training with him, but you bring her in with a match and she's got that support system of Mara, Parker, Smets training with her. Yeah. I think that's a recipe for disaster for anybody we go up against in the Star Wars division. And then you bring in Adam Witt, who's a Star Wars guy too. It's like, you know, if we don't cover Star Wars this year, I'd be shocked we don't walk away with a belt.
No, you're absolutely right. You do have some real strong players there potentially in Star Wars. You mentioned his name, so I'll go to him for a second. Obviously, you know, unfortunate circumstances take life. Kevin Smets is not available to you to play this year. I'm sure he would have been number 1 if he was. It's safe to say, though, if you need him, he has your back on the sidelines. Is that correct?
You know, Smets has stated pretty much that he's going to be working with everybody in the dungeon this season. He's taking on a coaching role, if you will. He's been with me every step of the way through the draft, through free agency. There was not 1 minute of that draft that he was not in a Zoom with me, running the numbers, deciding who we want. You know, The whole crew was there. The whole crew was there. That's just the kind of dungeon we are. Let's open it up to the forum. We'll talk. Yeah, everyone was in there. Like, I'm not trying to come out here and pretend like I know every person entered in the draft. I had my eyes on people. I had a list, but some of these guys saw other things. And so Smets made the case for Mara. He's like, I think you target Mara this year. You know what I mean? She's got he's like, I feel like I could train with her and get her ready. This was before Dan was even in the conversation. So, yeah, Smets is certainly committed to bringing this faction a title, and he's going to do it behind the scenes this season. But guess what? I wouldn't be shocked if late 2021, you just might hear that Smasher music cue up at a live event if we're lucky.
If we're lucky, man, it can only hope with everything going the best way possible. And obviously, I wish best of health to him. He's not someone I know personally, but you always want to see people get better and fight back, and that's what he's
look, if you want to send him some cookies, I'll give you the address after the show.
Perfect. What's he like? Chocolate chip or macadamia?
I think you combine them both. I think he deserves the best of both worlds. But I don't want to put his address out here because you never know what kind of, you get some dicky-doo corruption fan sending him, a steaming pile of dog crap or something trying to be cute. I don't need that. I don't need that kind of smoke.
So let's talk Taskrax here, or brass tacks, God words. Brass tacks, right? Kevin's obviously going to be helping. You got that title shot against Chandru. Obviously, Mara getting the belt back, bringing it back to the dungeon, bringing it back to you guys. That's going to mean a whole lot. But kicking Chandru's ass will mean something extra special, won't it?
Well, of course. I mean, right now he's public enemy number one. If this was, the FBI office, his picture's on the wall, and there's a cast of characters below him, but he's public enemy number one. He is going down. He will lose this season, and the dungeon's going to be the faction that delivers that blow. We want his head, we want his belt, and we want the inner geekdom to be ruled by the dungeon again.
Absolutely. So to talk about a player in the draft that you did not unfortunately get, you came into the Schmoedown, you had that core three of Smets, Oyama, Zipper. Obviously, Zipper ended up with swag last year. And once again, Eric Zipper, unfortunately, no longer with you, now on swag. What was that like to see that you didn't have a chance at getting Zipper back?
That's a tough pill to swallow. I'm invested in Eric Zipper as a competitor and as a human being. One of the funniest guys I know. If anyone knows me, they know I like a joke. And I'm going to certainly miss hanging and making promos with that guy and getting him trained up and ready. Look, nobody wanted to see Zipper win more than me. And no one wanted to see him elevate his game more than me. He did that with me. He went out with a bang. Him and Witt damn near crushed their first teams match. And I cannot be angry with how they played that game.
No.
I coached them to give the Scorsese question to Witt, thinking that Witt's a little longer in the tooth. Maybe he's seen more, absorbed more Scorsese over his lifetime. And, he gets a Margot Robbie question from, what was the movie? The one about
Wall Street.
Wolf of Wall Street. And so I'm just as responsible for that. But look, now I got to worry about Eric Zipper on the other side of the aisle. Like, now I got to worry about him coming after me. He's going to be competing in an IG tournament, I'm sure, and we're going to run up against him at some point. And I'm going to have to take him down, but that don't mean he ain't invited over for coffee.
Absolutely. So let's talk about, Seth just said you had that core of the dungeon, and you did keep a little core going into this season. You brought back 3 players from your team last season, obviously Parker in the free agency, and you're able to pick up Witt and Video Drew in the draft. Both 2 players that I do honestly believe definitely improved their gameplay under you last season. Excitement at getting them back, I'm sure.
Yeah, Drew and I were having some conversations before the draft, and they were tough conversations. Like, there's a chance he may not come back. But Video Drew, she put her faith in me. She says, you know what, even if I don't get drafted, I know you'll find a way to get me in that dungeon. Obviously, I traded for her in the first place with the Droogs. I was impressed with her the minute we played against her when Oyama and Zip played against her and Thomas. I was very impressed with her her style, her grace, and I knew she had a cinema brain. I had no idea the untapped talent that was inside, and I had no idea that she would turn into the competitor she's turned into. And it's just steamrolling. She just wants to get better and better, and she's boiling right now, man. I'm telling you, she's like a rocket ship that's about to take off. Ain't gonna stop till it hits Mars. And to get her back and to ride with her and be able to put her in the best place to keep collecting wins, keep collecting points, I couldn't be more ecstatic. I did not think she was going to fall to me. I'm going to be honest with you. I was shocked. I thought somebody in there right mind, who doesn't take this girl who ends up with most recent match is a perfect game.
Yeah.
Damn near beat Mark Riley, one of the greatest in the game. How in the hell is she falling to me? That's just the universe knowing our name, man. And it worked out, and I'm couldn't be more excited about it.
I feel like looking back, that's the theme of this draft. How the hell did they end up there?
Yeah, I mean, some might say that about Molly, certainly, and I think they're saying it about Drew too. I'll tell you, like I knew Molly was good, but I straight up did not think she would fall to me, to the point where I wasn't even looking at her.
Yeah.
I was trying to look at some of these Dragon Con kids. I was trying, Hoey was very high on my list. Like I thought that he could be potentially the Star Wars player before I really knew for sure if Mara was going to 100 go with Star Wars, if I knew who that. So Hoey was high on my list. The fact that he slipped to me is just another gift. Like I believe in that kid. Star Wars is a life's work. He's smart. He's funny. He's got the attitude. He's got the chops. So it was interesting how it all fell.
Yeah, it really is. I mean, people were talking last year about yourself pulling Parker high and James White getting pulled high. And this year we had Amaru Moses and Thomas Harper go literally second and third. And from there,
Griffin Newman went in the first round, right?
He did, yeah. That's the tone.
I mean, I'm going to say this. Griffin Newman, Amaru Moses, and Harper all go in the first round. I think all three of those people are going to prove at some point in their career to be first-round talent. I don't know if it's this year. I don't know if it's next year. But just based on my own studying of those players and what I was looking at, all of them were on my list, and I had conversations with all of them. So, say what you will. I think there's some real talent there.
I agree with you.
Now, the managers they're playing for are morons. That's a given. But maybe they can overcome that and find a way to train themselves, because their other managers couldn't train them out of a Frigidaire box. Absolutely. Which is where they'll probably be sleeping, in a Frigidaire box, if they're in the Finstock Exchange.
Right. You have to – I have to ask let's go there. Let's talk about Bobby Gucci. He's somebody you have a hate relationship with. And nobody seems to know any of the people he drafted. I don't know if he was looking at a different list with this dossier he had. Were you eyeing any of the names he ended up pulling, just out of curiosity?
Well, look, I think more so the relationship with Bobby Gucci is when you punch out of the Schmoedown and there's no matches and everyone goes home. Right. He's my tag team partner as far as late night comedy is concerned, and him and I are certainly we work together in other capacities. In the Schmoedown, it's war, just like this season is being built. So I don't care when it's time to play Schmoedown. I don't care who's my friend, who's not my friend. You're all gonna get your teeth kicked in by the dungeon, and you're gonna get it 2 barrels. And I don't care. It shouldn't affect personal relationships. And if it does, you're in the wrong sport. Get out now. That'd be my advice to any managers who are hurt by that. So I have a fair degree of respect for Bobby Gucci, because look, he's won more managers of the year than anybody. You can't deny that. Okay, you can't deny that. I think Griffin Newman has what it takes to be a champion in this league. Now, it ain't going to be this year. If he's lucky enough to play against Dan Merle, he's going to be knocked on his butt and sent home. You know what I mean? They'll be dragging him out in a Frigidaire box. I keep coming back to that. There's maybe Bobby Gucci sells refrigerators, I think, out of the back of a truck is his day job. I know he drives a truck, and I think it's a Frigidaire truck, and that's probably why it's like a Freudian slip or something. But either way, I think Griffin Newman could be a huge talent in this league. And, is he first round worthy? I guess we're going to find out. But I'll tell you what, I had him high on my list.
Okay, yeah.
Now this Moose Haas kid is supposed to be something good, but apparently he doesn't have a Facebook. He doesn't have a phone. I don't even think he has a social security card. So I don't know what park bench they dug this guy up, but apparently he's very good at trivia. I think Gold Leader is a talented kid. I think, the jury's out on him, but certainly think he's got the character for it. One guy I had my eye on, Rick Radis. I think I think he'll have some rookie growing pains, but I think there's a will to win there, and certainly he's an interesting character. So I'm not as hard on Gucci for his draft as a lot of people are. I mean, look, I'm the king of bringing in new talent and wanting to foster new people in this sport as to kind of like make my mark. I think Gucci employed a similar strategy, but I think he took it one step further to the point where he wanted to pretty much dominate his roster with rookies. And time will tell if he made the right call. Probably not when he plays against us. I wouldn't expect him to have any luck with that lineup, but maybe against the other managers.
Yeah, absolutely. It's definitely a wait and see situation. So speaking of the rookies, you're right. You are known for bringing the rookies in. I mean, you're the manager that took 2 rookies to titles in the same season with Oyama and Smets. And you have 3 on your team this year in John Hoey, John Flickinger, and Chris Van Vliet. Is that correct? Van Fleet. Excuse me. Thank you.
Yeah, Van Vliet. Yeah.
Thank you.
Like a fleet of submarines coming to tank your army or your navy. Sorry, wrong military branch.
In the Schmoedown War, absolutely.
Right, in the Schmoedown War.
So what about these guys can you say? Obviously, and I would give credence to you above some of the other managers for the work you've done with rookies. So what do you see in these 3 that they made it into the dungeon?
I'm gonna be 100% honest in that what I know about Flickinger is he's certainly a big brain movie guy. It seems to be a priority in his life. He's a raw talent. I think he's going to have to learn the game. But when you're getting drafted last and second to last, you're pretty much expected to come in and maybe be green and not know a lot, unless you're a fan leaguer, who's done it. So he's going to have to learn the game. So I think he's got a good base knowledge, but we'll see if we can train him up a little bit. Van Vliet is a huge personality, funny guy, great guy, Emmy Award-winning talent. This guy who is excited about the Schmoedown. He interviews a lot of pro wrestlers, and he's just tied into the entertainment world. He's a big time flashy guy. He lives on the big side of town. He wears all the designer suits. So he's bringing style in addition to a big brain to this faction. So again, we still got to get him trained up, but we think there's a lot of potential there.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm looking forward to it. Again, I think over the last couple of years when bringing rookies in has been a big thing in the Schmoedown, 2 of the biggest successes have come for you. So I certainly think you're the person to look to in terms of rookies. And I put Parker in that as well. Now, I have an interesting question about Parker, which is this is something that got brought up on our previously in the week, our discussion about your draft, which was talking about the assumption, whether or not it's confirmed is up to you, but the assumption is that Bateman and Merle will be a team. It only seems to make sense. But it's who could be that second team for the dungeon. If we reach a point in the season where we can get into more teams matches that I think Christian would like to in terms of in-person matches, who becomes that second team? Now, for anyone who knows Robert's fan league history, his bread and butter is certainly geek, but he's got a lot of knowledge in regular film. Has that something that's ever been discussed about him maybe crossing over into teams?
It has been, and a lot of times for fun, me and Bateman like to call up Parker. It's kind of like we call a little game me and Ben like to call called Wake Up Call, where me and Bateman will just call Parker at any given time of day or night, be 2 a.m. And if he answers, we just start quizzing him on anything that's not inner geekdom, just to really kind of catch him caught off guard and see what he knows. Let's get him at his worst and see what he knows. And we realize that even when he's half asleep or half drunk or half hungover, he still manages to have about an 89% accuracy rate in pop quizzes that me and Bateman get him in general trivia. Now we haven't played a simulated match or anything to really test that, but we've done plenty of Iron Man tests with Parker to know that he could play in singles, and he has expressed interest in playing in teams. Now, I think a great partner for Parker would be Adam Witt. If there was some way that we could find enough room for 3 teams to play this year, because I think right now you got to put Whitney Seibold and Video Drew together. I think there's a undeniable chemistry waiting to happen there. We're gonna get in some training sessions. We're gonna get on some Zooms. We're gonna figure it all out. But my gut instinct told me that Seibold and Drew is just not only are they both phenomenal players and improved it in this league, but I think they'll get along really well, and that's just as important. And I think that's why Zip and Witt got along so well, which is why they played as well as they did despite getting the loss. So I think I think it's about building that chemistry early. You don't want to throw anybody into a match, 2 weeks before and tell them who their partner is. So, I think Parker will have a career in singles someday. But listen, he knows what the mission is. The mission is to take over the Inner Geekdom. Him and Mara should not lose a match in Inner Geekdom unless one of them was playing the other. And that's the way it should be. And that's the same mentality I went into last season with Smets and Parker. You two guys are, in my opinion, were the 2 best Inner Geekdom players in the league. Let's do it together, and one of you two is going to come out on top. And either way, it's a win for the faction. And hopefully it helps us, bring a faction title home someday. Someday soon, I mean to say. Someday in 2021. Because if you can't do it with this lineup, I don't know what you got to do. You know what I mean?
Absolutely, yeah. And I certainly think there is the potential there for that. I said, despite the fact that Parker obviously hit the current buzzsaw that was Chance Ellison in that tournament, he didn't play poorly in any of his matches. The most maybe 1 or 2 questions missed, I believe. So that's a start.
Chance is one of the best players, bar none, in this league. And so you take if you take a loss to Chance, how can you beat yourself up for it? You know what I mean? As long as you hang with the guy, I mean, he has absolutely no manners and he has no sense of style. I think he's been wearing a SWAT outfit pretty much for the last 3.5 years. So you maybe try a different look. What's that?
He only takes off the sunglasses from time to time.
Yeah, he looks like he should be working in like the Sioux City Falls SWAT team. I don't know what to say. This is whatever though. I mean, he's a great player. So
yeah,
and he's a guy who only gets better. So I know that didn't sit well with Parker, but he will have his revenge. Mark my words.
Absolutely. So we're almost about to wrap up here. 1 or 2 more things. We mentioned him briefly, but I want to get to everyone that I can. Whitney Seibold, the definition of a player who's come so close so many times. I don't think I've ever seen him put up a bad performance. He's just struggled to get it over the line that many times. The dungeon's the place for him, I assume, then?
Yeah, God, you watch this guy play, and when he's on, is he on? And he's one of these guys who he knows who the gaffer was in, the creature from the Black Lagoon in 1949. This man has got deep library knowledge. Okay. And he's one of the most fun characters to enter this league ever. And he's just got such a class about him. And the dungeon's a classy establishment. You know what I mean? We may dress like we're going to a Pantera concert, but underneath it all, we're classy individuals. You know what I mean? And when he fell to me, I was shocked. I'm like, how is this guy not on someone else's roster right now? Because he could have been the A player. If it is indeed him and Drew, right, he could have been the A player if we didn't land Drew. You know what I'm saying? We were looking for someone of that, like a Drew or Seibold to anchor the second team. The fact that they're going to get to play together just makes me ecstatic, and I can't wait to see what happens next. But I mean, if anyone knows about this guy, if you're listening to his critically acclaimed, if you're listening to his critically acclaimed podcast with Bibiani, super entertaining. If you're a film nerd like me, it's just a fun listen because it's just like 2 buddies having fun talking about movie history and dissecting these really cool movies. And I would check that out. So anytime you're dealing with cinema royalty like Whitney Seibold, you're in good hands.
Absolutely. And we got one final question here. I feel like it's one a lot of people have on their minds. Very simply, what is the stance with Chris Jericho going into the 2021 season?
Chris Jericho is going to play in 2021.
And with that, that is the interview, people. Kaiser, thank you for coming. I appreciate you taking the time to show up to a channel with 3 subscribers and 4 viewers. Don't know how that math works, but we do appreciate your time here. Would love to have you back down the road for a normal interview, but I appreciate you coming here under these circumstances, you know?
Well, listen, if you guys need me to sign a couple, color copies, maybe you can like raffle them off and help get some viewers. I'll do that for you guys. Just
yeah, absolutely.
Send me a stack of glossies of myself. I'll sign them. Put the postage so I don't have to pay for that crap. So I'll put that in there, and I'll take a minute and I'll do that for you because I know you're associated with my buddy Maddie and the Little Warrior, and anything I can do to build their brand.
Absolutely. We'll discuss specifics off screen, but
sounds good.
Perfect. Thank you guys for checking this interview out. If you haven't already, be sure to check out the previous videos breaking down all the factions in the draft. We had a number of great guests, including the Mount Schmoedown podcast and Quirky Mercs member Jesse Swift. Kaiser, thank you again for joining us, and we will see you guys next week for a return to normal episodes of SchmoeTalks.